So in a previous episode, I talked about joining HOG after 30 years away from motorcycling and buying my first Harley Davidson. Today is the orientation day, and I don't know which one I'm more nervous about. Meeting people I've never met there before, or today's weather. So here we are getting ready to start the day, and I was actually quite concerned about the weather at this point. I'm looking around at the weather and I'm thinking maybe this isn't such a great idea to go. This was the morning to get to the orientation. I'd had about maybe 1 hour to get there at this point, and I'm kind of contemplating whether I even bother going because I was worried about the weather and the forecast was looking like thunderstorms, and I hadn't ridden in the rain since I've had this bike and I didn't really like the idea of it. So I'm glad that the day did happen, but I just wanted to give you that insight before we get underway.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to Morgan and Wacker to do the orientation for Harley Owners Group, which means you're able to go on some of the rides. So you have to do the orientation before you go on any of the rides with the rest of the group. That's what today is. Hello, if this is your first time here, my name's Rob and this channel is Throttle Reborn, and it's all about coming back to riding after a 30-year break. So I used to have other motorcycles a long time ago. 30 years ago I had Kawasaki Ninja. Now I'm riding a 2019 Harley Davidson Heritage. Now the weather's been a bit all over the shop today. I was very much contemplating not doing it today because I really didn't like the weather. So I've kind of wasted a little bit of time I'm in an hour about whether I should do this today or not. But the weather's looking good right now, but I think we might have some showers on and off, and it should storm this afternoon, but I'm hoping we can dodge most of that. I don't have any wet weather gear. I don't even have a rain sock for my bike, so it's not really great to ride them in the rain, especially with an exposed air cleaner. But the weather's good right now, so let's go for a ride.
So what is the HOG orientation? So the HOG orientation, it's where new members get the lay of the land. So you meet the new chapter, you learn about their safety rules and how they run. You figure out how the group rides actually work. Today, I'm hoping to figure out how these big group rides actually run. So I've heard they have things like corner marking and hand signals, all that kind of stuff, but honestly, it's a bit intimidating. I really don't know that much about it. And I'm hoping that today we get very comfortable with the process of riding in the group. I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit nervous. It's my first time meeting the new chapter. Also a bunch of new people, and I don't want to be the guy who's holding everyone up, especially when I'm trying to record, but that's why I'm here. I've got to start somewhere. Alright, so we're pulling in now to the dealership. Time to meet everyone and see what this is all about. So it's right about here, you should be seeing me riding out there with the orientation group, which was me and one other guy and two people from the chapter, on a social ride just to get a bit of a feel for what was happening. Unfortunately, there was quite a bit of a rush from when we finished the orientation in the room to getting downstairs, getting on the bikes and heading off on a practice ride to get some experience with what actually happens on the formal rides. Unfortunately, my camera had a bit of a hiccup. I knew something was going on. I had it on my helmet. I tried to turn it on. Unfortunately, it was taking photos and not video. I suspected something was wrong, but I couldn't stop along this ride to rectify it. So I'm going to do my best to give you an example of what we were doing on the ride and tell you some of the things that happened on the session. Okay, so once I arrived at the dealership and found the group, I introduced myself, said, hey, I'm here for the orientation. Is this the right place? And they directed me, yes, it is. A couple of people come out and said hello, shook my hand, asked me what I was looking for out of the HOG chapter. Sort of gave me a bit of an idea what they do at the HOG chapter, just to make that clear. At this point, I hadn't paid any money to join. I was currently, at that time, a guest member. So the first part of the orientation was going up to a classroom and sitting down talking about safety. Now, I'm not going to cover everything in detail, but I do want to give you a bit of an example of what you're going to experience on the orientation. Obviously, if you join, you'll get to do this yourself, but just to touch on a few key things. Formation basics. Obviously, when you're in a group, it's important to stay safe. One of the key things is that when you ride in the group, you're in a staggered formation. So that means one rider to the right lane, part of the lane, one rider to the left part of the lane. Once you're in that formation, you stay in that position. There is a distance of 2 seconds between you and the rider directly in front of you, not the rider to your angle to your either left or right, depending on which lane you are. So a 2-second gap to the rider directly in front of you. And the opposite lane next to you will be staggered, and they'll also do that. Now, when you're in this staggered formation, there is absolutely no changing lanes. If you're in the left lane, when you take off, you stay in that left lane. There's no moving to the right for any of the riders for obvious reasons. When people start zigzagging, that creates a problem and could potentially cause an accident. Now, one of the things I had no idea about was the corner marking. So what is corner marking? Essentially, everyone in the group, as you move through the route that you're going to have corners. Now, to keep everyone together and for other riders to understand what the direction of travel needs to be, they set a corner marker. So how this works is the person behind the road captain becomes the first corner marker. In this case, the road captain, as they're coming to a corner, will look for a safe space for the person behind them to point to a position at the corner where they believe safe. The person either on the right or the left of the road captain, depending on the direction, will then indicate with the road captain, pull over into the spot that they were pointed to. The rest of the group will then go past that person, so the whole group can see as they approach that rider. They'll see the indication on that rider's bike. Okay, there's a few key rider roles that you really want to know about. There's 3 main ones. They are the lead rider or road captain. So they set the pace and organize the turn signaling for the group. There's your corner markers. So they're the people that stop at turns and point the direction of where the group needs to go. And you have your tail rider or sweep. So they basically come up and release the road markers. Now, that's really the core things you probably need to know. Obviously, when you do your own orientation, you'll get a little bit more detail than what I'm going to give you here today. But I think the key thing is make sure you're comfortable riding your bike. You're going to be in a group. You don't want to compromise anyone else's ride. You want to feel comfortable on your bike and that you're capable of managing that through slow turns, through traffic. We went through some pretty severe traffic in some cases when we were going to on our test ride. So make sure you're comfortable on the bike and you're ready to ride in a group. Now, if that's not you, maybe practice a little bit more and get a bit more up to speed before you join the group rides. So there we have it. I've been to the orientation now. I actually thought it was pretty good for the first time meeting all these people. People were pleasant enough. And I think if it's something that you feel is for you, then it's worth giving it a go. Now, is it for everyone? I'm not sure about that. I think you have to be comfortable with groups and have to understand that in every group dynamic, things may not be what you want it to be. So try a different chapter if the chapter you're working with isn't for you, or maybe just stick to solo riding if that's what you prefer to do. Overall, I did put my money down and sign up. You actually get a discount from the dealership, so I think that 40 bucks is well worth it. The next episode, we'll be taking the Harley Davidson on a chapter ride, and I'll share that experience in an upcoming episode. If you like this video, give it a like and thumbs up. For everyone who's subscribed, thank you very much. For all the people that have continued to watch, thank you very much. I really appreciate your support. Stay safe, everyone. We'll see you on the next Harley adventure.